Good evening. I'm Dr. Miles Harrison. I'm a positive dog trainer who's certified by Victoria Stewart Academy for dog training and behaviour. Tonight I'm going to give you a talk on separation anxiety, looking at what it means and how we can tackle it. What is separation anxiety? Well, it's an emotional response when dogs can't cope with being left alone or away from one specific person. It can be very fraught, very painful for them, and there's obvious signs like barking, whining, even foaming at the mouth. Dogs which have a full-blown panic attack who just can't cope with being on their own. This is very rare in itself. What's much more common is just a separation issue, where dogs can't cope too well with being left on their own, where there's just mild barking, mild frustration, which is more associated with, say, boredom than real panic attacks. In the media, we often see people talking about separation anxiety in a very loose sense, and to an extent we're doing that tonight. But you have to bear in mind that some things which aren't real anxiety are a serious issue. So boredom, dogs not having enough to do when people go out. Also frustration, dogs feeling a barrier they can't get to the people they love. And we have to bear in mind also, there's a clear reason why separation anxiety or separation issues exist. We have a strong bond to our dogs. They're a huge part of our lives. They are family, in essence. We develop that bond, we rely on it, we trust it, we build it, then we go out. Now, dogs don't have the same understanding of the world around them as we do. The passage of time is very different for a dog, and us just going away can lead to frustration, boredom, or at the more extreme, full-blown panic. Unlike separation anxiety, separation issues are very common. In fact, a study at the University of Lincoln suggests that over 50% of dogs can have some type of separation-related problem. And the current lockdown may well make that worse when people return to work. We have to kind of bear in mind the kind of classic indicators of separation issues. And these things are occasional destruction, where rarely, just on a few occasions, you may see a little bit of damage, perhaps a little bit of clawing at a door. Or there might be a short period of barking when you leave the home. These things are very normal and can definitely be dealt with. Dogs with true separation anxiety, you get more common destruction. In fact, it becomes a daily routine. Barking is continuous, incessant, going on for hours and hours, and the dog never settles. Another key factor is how you tell the difference between separation issues and full-blown separation anxiety. Now, we have to be a kind of dog detective here. Observe the dog behaviour. Is it true panic? In that case, it's separation anxiety. If it's more mild forms of distress, where dogs are struggling to cope with, say, being left for short periods of time, or perhaps boredom or a little bit of isolation issues, well, that's more of a kind of a mild separation problem. But how you tell the difference is normally by observation. If the issue is caused by one person leaving the home, we can observe that very easily, with other people being there. But if it's with everyone going, the secret is to actually have a webcam. Set it up in your home, costs perhaps £20–25. Have it monitoring the dog all the time, access it wherever you are just by your mobile phone, and then judge their behaviour. Be that dog detective. Look for the key signs, for body language. Are they distraught? Are they in true panic? Or is it a milder separation issue? If it's the latter, it's much easier to resolve. I'm going to come on to that in the next section of the slides. Part B of this webinar is going to look at solutions. how we tackle these problems, how they're addressed. Now, thankfully, there's quite a lot that can be done to improve the life of you and your dogs. One key thing I would say right at the beginning is never ever use a punishment. Anxiety is an emotional response. If you punish a dog by shouting at them, you're only going to make it worse. Is a crate the answer? Well, that's a really important point. In occasions, crates might seem to be a short-term solution. They can stop damage being happening in your home to furniture, etc. The problem is that this is really an emotional issue. And by restricting a dog's movements, we can actually make that emotional response much worse, make the anxiety worse. It might help perhaps with small dogs to have, say, a crate with perhaps a larger pen around it to give it more kind of area for movement. But with larger dogs, I don't think a crate is really the solution. Should you see a vet? Well, with full-blown separation anxiety, it may well be necessary to speak to a vet to get their advice. Certain treatments like, say, Prozac, which are available for dogs, can lessen the symptoms of separation anxiety, which after all is a sort of panic attack that dogs are having. We still need to actually have the training to go alongside it. In itself, medical treatments are not the solution to separation anxiety. Enrichment is an incredibly important part of every dog's life, but it can be extremely useful for all these separation issues and all separation related problems. Now, that can be partly physical exercise, whether it's playing with a dog or taking it for a walk to the park. That in itself is definitely a good thing to do. But don't forget the mental aspect, the other part of enrichment. That can be through brain games, puzzles, toys, playing with your dog. Even massage can help the dog relax and chill out. In fact, we can teach calmness with our dogs. There's a technique developed by a lady called Sarah Fisher called free work, where you just deposit little treats around the house, a kind of Hansel and Gretel type game. That can be a lovely, relaxed, calming thing for all stressed, tense, anxious dogs. A kind of hide and seek with treats or toys. Anything you can do to make the life of your dog more rewarding will definitely help their state of mind. Feeding enrichment, again, that can be through scent work, like the kind of hide and seek type game I mentioned a moment ago. It can be through just taking a portion of a dog's daily meal, take it out of a bowl and put it into a food toy, where it's a Kong or a puzzle game. Make it more fun. Make anything you can do enjoyable and chilled out and calming. A lot of people even recommend playing calming music, like classical music, to the dogs. That can definitely have a good calming effect. But you have to work out what works out for you and for your dog and your situation, because every dog's different. One of the great ways to really achieve enrichment for any dog is through training. My personal favourite is to teach hand touch, also called nose targeting. It's a great way of turning fun training into a game and building on your bond with your dog in a brilliant way. Just for you, I've recorded 3 different videos show you exactly how I teach hand targeting. Here they are.
Okay, Sarah. Sarah, touch. 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 Sarah. Sarah, touch. Sarah. Sarah. Good girl, Sarah.
Now, another factor that really is important is routine. Well, lockdown has changed our lives in immeasurable ways. Things we do before going out to work at a certain fixed time, taking a dog for a walk at a certain fixed time. Lots of people, they've just got completely out the window. But dogs, like people, they love routine. In fact, even more than we do, because they don't know why these changes have happened. What we have to do is try to put that routine back into our lives. And that would be for having, say, fixed walk times. If you normally walk the dog at, say, 6 p.m. after work, walk the dog at that time now. If they have a fixed meal time, try to stick to it. Make their lives right now as predictable and as much of a routine as possible, and especially as close as you can possibly get it to being how it will be after you go back to work on a normal basis. If you get that routine in place now, the actual shock factor going back after the lockdown is eased will be much less. Training can do a huge amount to deal with these separation anxiety and broader separation related issues. Now, this is not the sort of thing you can solve overnight. There's no kind of quick fix overnight solution, but you can make a huge amount of progress through training. What we have to do is teach slowly, carefully, distance increasing exercises. I've done 4 different videos just for you, for the dealers for your home in UK. The first of those covers settle training, getting the dog to relax, be nice and calm on a bed or a mat next to you. The second is a more advanced version called go to bed training. Third video shows you how to get your dog to stay so you can move away from them and create that independence. And the fourth video looks at recall. Can that actually help you to tackle separation issues?
More treats, just encourage them just to lie down nice and calmly where they are in the evening. That can work, but I'm doing it now in the daytime with slightly more active dogs and trying to teach them to settle and lie down on a little mat here. And firstly, you'd normally lure the dog over towards the mat with a little treat. I'll do it with Issy. Good girl. I'm just marking her for sitting on the mat at first. Then I'd lure her into a down. Just treat next to her nose, then directly down towards the ground. Good. Then leave the treat directly on the bed. Then just give her perhaps 1 or 2 more treats. As long as she stays there, you can keep rewarding it just before she's about to move. As you start to put more and more treats down, start to say the word settle as the treat is still on the ground. Settle. 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 The next stage will be to move about, just move a little bit away from her, and then still dropping treats directly back onto the mat. hoping she'll stay there in one position. If she moves, you go back to stage 1 and get her back lying down on the mat. The idea here is we're teaching both calmness and a little bit of separation. So we can move about, hopefully, and she'll stay there where she is on the mat. If she stays, again, you would reward that. If she moves like she did then, you get her back into a down. Good. And then stay settled. You have to take this in baby steps, bite-sized portions. And then you start to move about. Again, taking it very slowly. You can gradually start to move further and further away from the dog. But keep rewarding, again, retreats back onto the mat. Gradually start to build up distance, moving further and further away. I've got Zara here helping at the same time. Thank you, guys. After you've trained to settle or get a dog to lie down on a bed or mat, the next stage is actually teach the go to bed cue. Again, you do this by luring. You get a little treat, put it close to the dog's nose, and lure them like a magnet across to the bed. If they lie down, that's brilliant, but even if they don't, I would say good as a marker and reward that behaviour. Now, before they move, place a little treat down next to them. Again, before they move again, another treat. And then one more, tiny little slice of treat. We call this building up duration, getting more time lying down on the mat or bed. We then have a release cue. We can throw a treat or lure the dog off the bed. So, treats. I do this 3 or 4 times to give Zara, in this case, the idea of going to bed. Then as you lure it, you start to say the cue word. You start to say go to bed at the same time. Go to bed. And again, you work on a bit of duration. You might call it a stay or wait if the dog already knows that cue. Again, then release the dog, say okay or treats. Okay? And then again, go to bed. Again, release. Okay, treats. Go to bed. Good. As the doodle starts to get the idea of go to bed, okay, treats, you stop having to lure them with treat as a magnet. You can just point and say the cue, but always reward when we do actually get back to the bed. Go to bed. Good girl. Okay, treats. Again, by doing this, you're building up a distance. Distance really helps with actually coping or helping dogs to cope with separation issues. You're teaching them they don't have to be glued to you all the time. But a bit of separation can indeed be a really good thing. And when they move away to the bed, they get rewarded. It's not a punishment, it's a reward for doing a really good behaviour and not being attached to you. As a trainer, we call this avoiding hyper-attachment. Really good, Sarah. For dogs with separation issues, a real problem can be hyper-attachment, where they want to follow you around everywhere you go. One great way to do that is to teach a little bit of independence, and my favourite would be to teach a quick stay. So I'll get Zara into position, lower around, ask her to sit, and just ask her to stay with a hand signal. Then back up one step. Good. Go straight back to her. Reward her. One step back. Good. Now just one step. You're not going to move too far away. Izzy's joining in. Izzy, sit. Lucy, sit. Stay. Just before we move, reward. Now you're going to build up some kind of duration before getting them to move. You don't want them to kind of moving too much. So ask Izzy to sit again, to sit, stay, good, reward. Now when we're starting to stay for maybe 10 seconds, then start to move away. So, stay, good. Stay, good. So first you're going to work on the actual stay itself, either sitting or lying down. Then work on the actual duration of the stay, then add in the distance. When dogs have separation issues, one thing you often see is might be looking, say, out the window, as Zara's been doing here. Now, it can just be watching traffic or people going by, but often it might suggest perhaps a separation issue when perhaps one of the owners, or we now say caregivers, has gone out and they're waiting to see if they're going to come back and how long it's going to be. Lots of things you can do to kind of tackle that. My first suggestion will be to kind of interrupt it and basically interact with your dog. Make sure they're focused back onto you. Now, simple, easy to do when one person's gone out. The other person might perhaps have a favourite toy or a treat to get their attention back onto them. It can be by playing a game or getting a licking mat out, having something fun and interactive. Or you might want to work on something more practical, like getting a recall behaviour taught to get them away from the actual window and over to where you are. Again, get a really kind of high value treat. Remember, dogs learn best by consequence and association. So I'm going to encourage Zara to come over to me. Zara, come. Good girl. Now again, I use the treat like a lure and just lured her over. When that becomes a routine, you've done it a few times, you can make that recall very reliable. Now I'm going to cheat a bit by getting her to jump on the sofa. Zara, jump. Izzy's jumped on too, which helps. Let's get Zara on. Zara, jump. Good girl. Wait. Izzy, Zara, come. Good. So you can work on this, get a recall off the sofa, away from the window. The secret is to work out what actually motivates your dog, what its currency is. That might be a bit of ham, a bit of chicken, might be a favourite toy, but connect that to interactive play. Turn it into a game, make it fun. Get the dog away from the window, over to you, and make your time more enjoyable.
How you leave has a huge impact on separation issues. It's something that we can't overlook because it has a really big factor in determining how our dogs behave. Indeed, we can definitely make separation issues far worse. A classic example is where a person is leaving the house, they say goodbye, get really excited, grab the coat, get the car keys, rush out the house, and the dog reacts to that. Then when they arrive and come back, say 3 or 4 hours later, they're naturally delighted to see the dog. Understandable, we all do it, but you get so excited, you kind of want to give the dog a big fuss. And unfortunately, that creates more adrenaline, more cortisol in the dog. So the dog reacts, but unfortunately that way, you're actually kind of creating a kind of hyped response, where the dog's nervous when you leave, fearful even, and then hyper and giddy when you get back. We have to change that. We have to change the picture. We have to have much calmer body language. We have to be relaxed and chilled when we leave the house. And also we have to train independence really slowly. We have to build up the duration of leaving the house. Perhaps just leave for maybe 1 or 2 seconds. We have to desensitize the dog, so we're not scared of these things, because they pick up triggers in our behavior. We go and get our car keys. We put a coat on. They see that as a kind of fear-based aspect, and they get tense even before we leave the house. You probably see them in your own dogs. So they get that nervous energy, that fear, that cortisol, that hype response before we even go. So we have to desensitize them. We make those triggers every day. Go and grab your car keys. Sit down, make a cup of tea. Relax. Perhaps go back upstairs. Do something different that you wouldn't normally do. And when you do get to go in outside, don't go to work, just go perhaps outside for 30 seconds. Come back in. Make it a little bit of everyday activity. It's not scary. Nothing bad happens. And build up the duration of going out. Again, it's very slow. It's bite-sized. It's incremental. It's baby steps. And you build up the time when you're out of the house. So there's nothing scary about it. It might be you snip into the garden. You just do a little bit of gardening, or perhaps just walk around, come back into the house. Often clients of mine use things like baby gates. It's not like a temporary barrier. You close the gate, you go into a different room, you leave the dog behind, having its meal, or with a Congo or licky mat, something nice and relaxed and chilled and positive, while you go into a different room. Creating even little moments of independence when you're at home now will help when you go back to work. Take it in small steps, make it incremental, change the picture, and make it much better for your dogs, because you're teaching them slowly how to be separate from you, how to be independent, and to cope and know nothing bad is going to happen. If you do that carefully and gradually, you can make a huge difference to how your dogs respond and how they cope when we go back to work full time. I really need to emphasize that dogs can have separation issues, particularly rescue dogs and young puppies, because they are so closely bonded to people. They're inherently social animals just like we are. We always have to take this into account and build independence very calmly and very carefully over time. So the best thing to do is not just going to go out to work, leave a dog for 4 hours at one time, but to build little small periods of independence. Give the dog a favourite chew before you go out. Try and teach some calmness, some relaxation to your dog. And don't let them follow you all the time around the house, because lots of dogs have a problem with hyper-attachment, where they follow their main owner from room to room. In the short term, that feels wonderful for us. When we go out, there's a huge shock factor there. So try and build in some time when they're independent. They might be sleeping at the other side of a room or in a different room from you. They might be perhaps relaxing while you go outside to do some gardening. Any small moments of independence are definitely beneficial and help a dog to grow up to be sensible and calm and reassured. I normally recommend building some time and space away from your dog, even if it's just perhaps sitting in a different part of the room where the dog's on its bed. Anything you can do that kind of creates a little bit of a non-availability. So you can do your work or read a book or whatever it is, but don't always be available to interact with the dog, because in the long term, we can't always do this. So make your life now as close as possible to how it's going to be when you go back to work full time. There's no need to panic. Dogs aren't going to have a crisis when the lockdown ends, at least the vast majority aren't. But the more we can do now to make it easier for them, the more we can build in a routine, the more we can train independence, the easier it's going to be. One idea which I definitely would recommend to at least consider is to perhaps feed a dog in a different room and then leave that room. If a dog's relatively calm, you can close the door, create a little bit of independence, and then 5 minutes later, calmly open the door, walk in, make a cup of tea, or whatever you want to do. But don't interact too much. Build in these little moments of calm, relaxed independence. That's definitely going to help. And increase those periods every day. So one day it might be 5 minutes with the door closed. The next day it could be 7 or 8. After that, 10 or 15. Building greater and longer periods where you're not always available, you're not always around to interact and play with the dog. A vital aspect of training is whether using a physical barrier can help with a separation issue. Now, in some sense, it can definitely help. For example, if you go outside, get out of the house for a second, then come back in, and I calmly relax and walk into the house, acknowledge the dog, say hi, and just carry on with your day, then keep doing that perhaps 2 or 3 times a day, and build up the duration of time outside, that can definitely work. But then don't just go out for long periods of time, then come back and expect no reaction. Again, it's baby steps, building up these periods of separation, gradual independence. Another thing I can recommend is possibly using baby gates. That way the dog can be separate from you, but still see you, and give you a partial degree of independence while we're still at home during lockdown. Another key factor is that dogs, when we do have accidents or perhaps do damage while people are out, they're not doing it out of intent to kind of get back at us for damage that they've done while we've been outside, perhaps enjoying ourselves or going to work. It's just a nervous response, an emotional response. The tension of anxiety leads to that result. Which dogs are going to suffer worse with separation issues? Well, it's probably going to be the sort of dogs who had issues before. Dogs which maybe had mild barking when you went out to work, or didn't settle or whine, did a little bit of damage at home. Those dogs are a lot more likely to have a shock now when we all return back to work, because you've got a huge contrast there from being us all around the house 24/7 in a day to then going out to work. They can't understand why we're doing this, why the change is happening. So you're going to have a big impact factor on those dogs. But we can definitely help them as long as we take it really slowly and carefully. We make sure those kind of changes aren't kind of an overnight shock value. But loads of things now you can do, and again, by keeping the kind of routine you might have used before the lockdown happened. If, for example, you had, say, a dog walk at a certain time, and then go do it again in the future when you return to work, it'd be a good idea now to keep that same person on board and use them perhaps just once or twice a week to walk the dog at a normal fixed time. The same with doggy daycare. If your dogs went regularly to daycare before, perhaps now they should go just at least 1 day a week. I know there's a lack of finance about it at the moment because we're all kind of trying to find and cope with the new normal, but we have to try and find a way that works for our dogs and keeps a routine in place, which means when we go back to work, the shock will be much less. It's essential to realise that with all these issues, we can't just wait for life to go back to normal, people to go back to work, and then tackle separation anxiety or separation-related problems. We have to address them now, while we are there in the home. That way we can spend some time with the dogs, work on training perhaps a settle, or a go to bed, or a stay, work on a degree of independence by moving away from them, having time on our own while the dog is perhaps with a treat or a favourite toy or a Kong or a licky mat, being nice, calm and chilled while we're doing other things. That way there's not the same shock value of when we go back to work. And this works for us too. We have to appreciate that dogs need a bit of time on their own. An average dog needs between 14 and 16 hours of sleep a day, which is relatively a huge amount. And because we're around at home doing things, dogs are getting disturbed, they're not getting this relaxation, this calm time we really need. So it's in their interests, and probably our own too, to breed that kind of independence into them now by calm, relaxed training, being chilled around the home. And when we do get to go outside, whether it's for perhaps a little walk to the garden or whatever block or whatever we're going to do, we're very calm about it. We don't have to take the dogs outside every time we go out. Make us stay inside. When we actually go for a walk, we can change things about. We can keep it interesting, keep it relaxed, keep it calm, and then don't be so nervous about leaving the dog for a short period. They will be fine as long as they built up the training nice and slowly in these gradual steps. No huge shocks, no big traumas. Doing it incrementally, and you're going to get a great result. In review, my key tips are, well, firstly, be a dog detective. Look for the key signs for behaviours. Is this full-blown separation anxiety, or is it a more mild form of separation issue? If it's anxiety, you may need to speak to a vet. If it's a separation issue, which is less distress, we can definitely tackle that through training. My second key point is to have a routine as close as it would be to going back to work, with the same meal times, the same walk times. Perhaps if you use daycare, keep using daycare. Third key point will be to train independence in small bite-sized bits. Practice the settle training, maybe the go to bed or the stay. Make sure the dog's not dependent on you all the time. You don't want to be always available, always interacting, or the shock when things go back to normal is going to be huge. Fourthly, remember dogs are socially bonded to us. They're loving, caring animals. They're a huge part of our lives. So if we can take them to places, why not take them? Maybe you can take your dog to work. Whatever you do, it's best for you and your dog. It's going to give you the most long-term success. If you have any questions, please put them below this post or send me a PM directly to Harrison's Positive Dog Training. Thank you.